Uncensored, no holds barred talk. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is the Global Reality Radio Network.
Edition of the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. This is the Monday edition of the broadcast. It is Metal Moonbat Monday, January the 16th, 2012, into the early stages of Tuesday, the 17th of 2012. Glad you could be with us here tonight. And we got a lot of news and information to get into with you here on the show tonight. We also have some emails. And we're also going to be reading from Zachariah Sitchin's The End of Days, our new series of reading that we started here in 2012. So we'll be getting into that tonight. My website where this broadcast originates from is www.theglobalreality.com. That's theglobalreality.com. And that's where you find the links to listen to the stream. You can also copy and paste that stream and pass that along and put it on your Facebook or whatever you use these days. And let other people know that the show is live right now. And you can also point them in the direction of their website so they can go there and check out my films, and they can go there and buy my films, or they can go there and find the chat room and come in and talk to other like-minded individuals, and also check out a little news and information while they're there. TheGlobalReality.com is the website. And we started a new show here on the network, my own new show, and that's a Sunday night show. It's going to be airing here every week, and I wanted to do something I wanted to do for a long time, and I started thinking about the benefits and thinking about different things that I wanted to do that because with a music show, it's totally different than doing a show like this. And so since I already have the platform, I figured that'd be a good way. Because you can. There's a lot more. What's a good way of putting it? A lot more. You can get access to a lot more mainstream revenue streams with with stuff that's just about music. So I figured that if that was successful, that could also carry over and help out what I'm doing here with this work and this broadcast separately. So. Sunday nights about around 11 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm going to be, it's going to be I don't know, I really have a name for it yet. Right now, I'm just calling it the Sunday Night Music Review with Josh Reeves, but I go on there playing songs that I like. I'm playing just different tracks, playing local stuff from Dallas artists, and just basically playing music and talking about exclusively music. So if you're looking to, hear about the kind of stuff you hear about on this show, well, that's a different show. And now I'm going to have a show dedicated exclusively to that. And we did one last night, and the archive is up there. The first show, it's up on the website. You can go check that out if you want. If not, hey, that's cool too. What I think is interesting, it had a huge response so far, and a lot of people that I know here, musicians and stuff, have been really excited about it. And what I think is interesting so far is I've noticed that there are people that I've tuned into that show that normally don't tune into this show, and I think there probably are going to be people that normally tune into this show that don't tune into that show because they don't give a shit about music or anything that doesn't have anything to do with research and all this stuff, and that's fine. But I like to do things that I don't know. I just like to do things that can give you a little focus. That's not. I want to be able to use my my brain and my knowledge and stuff for stuff other than just this all the time. and sometimes I want to get into stuff about music and stuff here on this show, but then some people don't like that because, they want to hear information. So, you know what? I'm into music. You want to hear me talk about music, play music, and hear a bunch of different tracks. That's when we're going to start doing it. And there's, there's not really anything on Sunday nights much anyway. I mean, so that'll be something good. But anyway, be sure and check that out. And all of the DVD orders for the Seagrite Volume 2 have been shipped. We are all caught up to date. So if you haven't received your DVD or Blu-ray package yet, well, you will be receiving it this week. So sit patiently by your mailbox and wait. I think today was Martin Luther King Day, so I don't think there was mail running today, so it might be a day behind, but you will definitely be receiving your packages very soon. They're all shipped out. We're all up to date. And if you haven't got a copy of the Seagrite Volume 2, my newest documentary film, and you haven't got a DVD or a Blu-ray yet or a research pack, definitely go there and get your one. I think the best bang for the buck is to get the pack that has the Blu-ray and the DVD. That's pretty rad. But the reason, a lot of people have enjoyed the research pack, and we've gotten, everybody that pre-ordered got one of those free. And we've had several other people who ordered them as well, and already gotten, responses back from people who really enjoyed that. So that's awesome. I'll definitely try to do more of that in the future with making the packages and all that. Since that seemed to be a real big hit this go around, people seem to like that. And I think it's awesome myself, because, sometimes you want people to see. Well, I mean, I was fighting, stupid shit like I was fighting with myself over whether or not, because, you split your brain into two different people whenever you're making a film. You just really have no choice. It's the way it is. Because you have to have one side of your brain that's strictly operational and working on the physical aspects of the creation of it. But you also have to have, this other side of your brain that's kind of micromanaging the creative side so that you can, make sure that you're, okay, here's the example. There's the clip in there of Pedro Arrupe, the Black Pope, the internal Georgetown University video. It's like 48 minutes long in total. Well, I wanted to put the whole goddamn thing in the movie. But then I ran the risk of, losing the point of it because, 48 minutes of this, but there's a lot of the important stuff in there. So in the end, I ended up just cutting it down to a small portion of it and then included the entire thing so you can watch that at your discretion in the research pack, which is the additional 4.2 gig DVD that comes with the research pack that you get. So, and there's a lot of the other extended clips. There's all my picture archive from the film. There's all kinds of stuff in there. But I just thanks to all those people who sent messages and emails saying that they've enjoyed that so far. I'm glad you did. So we're all caught up on the shipping. And we're also having our fundraiser this month. The stream bill is also due. I think it's due today or tomorrow. I can't remember. But we have to pay that as well. And we've got our 2012 kickoff fundraiser going on right now. And we got a long way to go in a short time to get there. So please help us out if you can. TheGlobalReality.com and go hit the Chip In banner this week and help us raise some funds to kick off 2012 and to kick off the next film. And we're just, with all the DVDs are shipped out. And now we're kind of low in the account. It's just funny how that works. I just, that's why I'm trying to find ways where we can start, selling more DVDs and stuff, because it's just funny it's amazing to spend all this money on a film and then you get it out and it's done. And then you're like, wow, okay, that's it. That's like, it just stops, that's so weird. It's happened to me the last 3 films. And I'm trying to figure out a way to not make that happen this time. And I want to, that's another, thing the fundraisers for this month, little expenses, things like paying the $37 to for the application fee to get it up on iTunes and Netflix. That'll be huge. We can do that. That's really one of my big goals for the film is to get that up there. But we don't have commercials here. We don't have any sort of, firewall on what I'm allowed to say and talk about here, which is really great. In the past, I have had to restrict myself since we don't have to do that here because, well, frankly, a lot of sponsors and a lot of people who pay networks for advertising time believe that they have the divine right to determine what radio show hosts talk about on their radio shows. And, if you don't like it, well, then they'll pull your sponsorship, right? And that was one of the biggest things that I know has frustrated the piss out of these people because, they tried to fire me from all these different networks and get rid of me, and everywhere I just pop back up again. And I know that's what they hate the most about me having my own network is the fact that, there's nobody to rope me in. You can't, I'm free to talk about what I want. And then, boy, that just pisses so many goddamn people off. It's hilarious. Got some different emails I want to get into with you here tonight. Let's see what we have. This one says, I have listened and enjoyed your readings of the ancient texts mentioned above, the Book of Thoth and the Kabbalion, and really agree with your interpretation of them. I hate to promote anything provided to us by the mainstream media, but after hearing your readings, I can't help but notice two old series that directly show what those texts are talking about. An old HBO series called Carnival, which was cut short, is subliminally about the continual battles and reincarnation of Enlil and Enki set during the Great Depression. Wow. Another thing you should check out, just to have a visual representation, is Lost. Once you get past the generic exposition, you can see the story is about the Dweller, true alchemy, mental conjuring, and finding and joining with the light. Yeah, I've heard that before. Well, that's interesting stuff there, Jace. Thank you so much for the email. I appreciate that. There's one from Jimbo. And Jimbo says, hey, Josh, here's the link to the Kabbalion audiobook that I made for you. Thanks for everything. Spread it around. I'm going to upload it to Demonoid later. Oh, okay, well, sweet. Well, I'll drop that in the chat room then right now. And that link that I just dropped in the chat room there, that is the link to the audiobook of the Kabbalion. So maybe we can spread that around and get that out there. Appreciate that, Jimbo. Thanks for compiling those and getting those made into audiobooks for us. They really should appreciate that. That people really enjoy those. Get a lot of requests for links for those all the time. This is from DF. DF says, hey, Josh, really looking forward to your next film. Not sure if you saw this article. Possible lost world found in Lake Huron. And we'll get into that article here in a bit later on the show when we get into news. I was also wondering what you thought of Chris and Sherry Geo from Truth Frequency. Oh, God. That should be all I have to tell you right there. That's all I should have to even say. Oh, God. Right, I'm not even going to go there. Look, I tried to go on their show once, and it was an absolute fucking calamity. The one time I was going to go on, they canceled for some bullshit. I decided to come back again. I didn't want to go on there at all, but, they were coming in my chat room. So, okay, decided to go on there. And then right before the show's about to start, they tell me they're bringing on some other guy and I was like, well, that wasn't part of the deal. It's supposed to be me. When you asked me to come on as a guest, you asked me to come on because you want to hear what I have to say, and well, it's what I bring to the table and what I have to talk about and my research. Otherwise, what's the point in having me on? And so they brought me on, and I get to talk for just a few seconds. They have this guy, Motormouth, who was talking out of his fucking asshole the whole entire time, did not know what the fuck he was talking about, was just stringing sentences together that made no sense at all. And every time I would try to interject some information, he would just shut me down. And I've never done this, and I don't plan on making a habit of it. I've never done it before and hadn't done it since because I've never been in a situation where I had to. And I was appalled by the fact that I had to. I quit. I hung up in the middle of the fucking conversation. Right there live on air. They weren't letting me talk anyway. It took them 15 minutes to notice I wasn't fucking there. But I've seen a lot of antics out of them for a long time. I've been keeping my eyes on them. I flat don't trust them. And back in 2009 when I left Oracle, there was already a lot of people, infiltrators and stuff coming in. We busted a few of them while I was there and got rid of them. And there were hosts over there on that network who, in the end, it ended up admitting that they were, basically admitting that they were operators. Since they have been on Oracle, I've caught their show a few times. They seem to cover some of the same subjects that you do. I get a bad vibe from them, and Chris comes across as shady. And the last time I caught the show, he was defending and apologizing for Alex Jones. Well, that should tell you everything you need to know right there. I mean, case closed. Love the show you recently did with Lee Rogers. I also really like his radio program and am not trying to start something. But when you guys were talking about the men who stare at goats and General Stubblebine, he failed to mention that his wife, Dr. Rima Libo, used to have a show on Oracle. She did? I didn't know that. I didn't know Rima Libo was on. Well, number one, I didn't know she was on Oracle for a period of time. Number two, Rima Libo is General Stubblebine's wife. And they've both been guests on the Alex Jones show. My God, that's huge. Because Stubblebine was, my God, he was connected to that whole, all that new age army tactics and stuff that Aquino cooked up during the Mind War thing. Boy, that doesn't help. Man, shit, I wish I would have known that. I would have got that in my film. I'm probably going to have to end up later on doing like an extended web cut or something and cutting in some of this different information because, wow. So Dr. Rima Libo, who I always thought was a fucking huckster, never trusted to begin with. Number one, I didn't know she had a show on Oracle for a period of time. I don't pay attention to these radio shows anymore, honestly, folks, because they're just all crap to me. Not saying that I'm some radio god. I'm just saying, it used to be good, and now these fucking shows just suck. I just can't sit there and listen and stomach listening to people just on every goddamn show you turn it on, regurgitating the same old fucking repeated, parroted disinfo over and over and over again on every single show. And that's how it is. And I just can't stomach it for a second, man. And I used to love this format. I used to listen to, this kind of conspiracy talk radio religiously. But that's pretty, man, that's pretty insane. Well, no, I wasn't aware of that. I don't know if Lee was aware of that. I'll ask him. But wow, so General Stubblebine, who's, Michael Aquino, he was in that whole gang with Michael Aquino, Stubblebine was, and that's PsyOps Deluxe right there, man. And his wife had a show on Oracle. They've both been guests on the Alex Jones show. Well, my God. Boy, that just proved that adds a lot more weight to what I've already do have in the film about those subjects, doesn't it, folks? Not blaming Lee, but there have been and still are some questionable hosts on Oracle. Well, yeah. I believe me, man, I was on the inside of it. I helped found that network. People forget that. A lot of ideas and a lot of stuff that I had came up went into that network at the time. And they started letting hosts on. Well, they got that guy. I can't remember his name. They started letting hosts on from GCN on there. The former host of GCN, I was saying, I think this is a good idea, man. We're on these fuckers' radars, and you're just going to, I always believe that these guys who showed up, who used to have shows on GCN and showed up with these stories, they were fired from GCN or whatever, were total plants, total absolute plants. Just, to come over and keep tabs on us and watch it, that kind of shit. Well, there's been a lot of those. I think I'm going to be frank with you. I got a real problem with Doug O, and I have since I was over there. I think he's a lying, two-faced piece of shit, and I think he's an absolute terrible radio host who has no business being on air. But I will say that, but he's not a spook, or a plant or a fed or anything like that. You know what I mean? Let's just be straight about that. You got to understand that people infiltrate these radio networks and get shows on these radio networks, but that doesn't always mean the people that run these radio networks are spooks and plants themselves. They've just had terrible judgment in there, and in some of the hosts they've allowed to be hosts on that network And you think there's, people think it's like some big deal to do a show over there. It's really not. They really have no, they really have no standards for who they'll give a show to. It's like, will you show up? Will you do a show? Can you talk without falling over and losing all breath for a couple hours? Okay, cool. Hired. But, regardless of what I think about Doug Owen, and I've told him to his face what I think about him before too, especially with the two-faced shit he did to me when I left the network. But look, he's not a plant. He's not a fed. He's not a spook. I can at least say that about the guys. I may not like him, but I will defend him on the fact that he's not a spook. I've met him before, and he's not a spook. So there you go. But anyway, regardless of that, these people are everywhere. Did Rima Libo? Let me guess. Rima Libo probably used to have a show on GCN before she had a show on Oracle. Am I correct? So, Stubblebine. I think they even mentioned him in the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats. But yeah, he was absolutely connected to all that psyop stuff with Michael Aquino and Paul Vallely, the head military analyst for Fox News, who was heading up the psyop stuff for the Army as well. What Aquino was involved in. It's an absolute fact, folks. And now we're going to find more of these things. Just like when I put out Secret Right Volume 1, now that 2's out, more of this kind of stuff is going to come out. More of these connections that are just going to prove my point. My goodness. Rima Libo married to Stubblebine. I had no idea. Well, that's shit. You can close the books on her. My God. That's PSYOP deluxe right there, folks. No question about it. Here's one from VZE46YTI. That's their handle. Josh, I'm listening to your interview on Lee's show and just got to the part where he was talking about a guest on one of the Oracle shows who was exposing this Phil English guy and his connection to Santorum and their possible involvement with the Sandusky case. I listened to a fair amount of local talk radio and have never heard this info before. So I did a quick search, and of course the master info whore himself came up. Its two segments are from an earlier show that covered this topic in an interview with Wayne Madsen. I wonder if you, along with Lee, can find out whom the guest was, whether or not the guy was on the cutting edge or if he was just parroting Madsen. I trust Madsen about as much as Jones. Yeah, I agree with that. So I'm hoping this guest is more reliable. I did a little bit of research into that, and the only thing I could find, like you, VZE46YTI, is the same thing, just Jones stuff. So, of course, it makes sense. Santorum, they had that big secretive right-wing enclave over this past weekend that we didn't get any support from the listening audience to be able to go cover yet again. What's new? And that was the end result. They backed Santorum, which you should have known that anyway. Santorum's a long-standing member of the Council for National Policy. He's one of their, he's their biggest mouthpiece for those far-right ideologies. So, all these guys at these high levels are all they're all brown boys, man. They're all into the fucking sphincter. And so, whether or not that's true, whether that's not, I don't know if Santorum's connected to the Sandusky thing at Penn State. Who knows? They're all fags. They all punch each other in the pooter every chance they get. So really, who cares? Was Santorum was a brown boy and he was involved in punching pooters at Penn State? Would that really shock you or surprise you? Come on. It wouldn't shock you or me in the least bit. In fact, look, it's really not horseshit. It really is a fact. The Jesuits, I heard that the Jesuits have to be sodomized by a man by the time they're 3 years old. And the man that sodomizes them, they have a bond with this person. That person becomes their mentor and brings them up through all the stages of their Jesuit career. But it's a requisite, man, that you have to take it in the butt with the Jesuits. It's just, it's the only way you get in the club. You take it in the butt or you don't get in. These guys are a bunch of homosexual, white supremacists who jerk off in coffins and do each other in the ass dressed as fairies. You ever seen that? You ever seen JFK by Oliver Stone? You ever seen that part? One of the best. My God, every person on that screen should have got every award available for this. I mean, 'cause it's one of the most precious, fucking priceless scenes ever captured to film. Fucking Joe Pesci, Tommy Lee Jones, Kevin Bacon, and they're like dressed in like, you know, powder wigs and fucking, you know, George Washington garb. And there's like, you know, black and white films of old 1950s or 40s footage of, you know, guys working out on the football field in the background. And you mind, Mary, you mind. You gonna get this. You do exactly what I tell you. You my bitch, you know. And they're in powder wigs, you know, bitching each other out. It's just, oh my God. That every time I see that, I've seen that movie a million times. Every time I see it, I roll around the ground and just start laughing because, like, that's who your leaders are. These are the people who pull off these high-level ops. They're mad. They are fucking mad sickos. They will pull off precision black ops and then go back to the cabin and fuck each other in the ass all night long. That's what they do. I mean, so, you know, again, Santorum being a brown boy, really not a stretch, I don't think. Not in light of everything else that we know, I would say. Oh, let's see what we have. I think it's all we have on the email stack tonight. Let's see what we have here to get into in this edition of the film. A film show. Oh, this is great. This is rich. This one, I saw this. I really got a laugh out of this. Newly discovered molecules in the atmosphere may offset global warming. A newly discovered form of chemical intermediary in the atmosphere has the ability to remove pollutants in a way that leads to cloud formation and could potentially help offset global warming. Yeah, you discovered a new molecule, huh? Yeah, it's called the ones that we've been spraying and billowing out into the fucking skies for years now out of these chemtrail planes. Oh, we're derp. I mean, my God, folks, they just think that we get stupider every day, and I know that a lot of people do get stupider every day, but my God, not all of us do. But literally, this article has the balls and the audacity to try to say that they've discovered some new molecule that not only protects us from global warming, but also forms clouds. And it's just a molecule that just magically does this on its own. No, we don't spray anything up there to make that happen. We don't spray anything up there to make it. I mean, you have to read that article. I just dropped it in the chat room. It's absolutely ridiculous. The existence of these so-called Kriege biradicals, which are formed when ozone reacts with a certain class of organic compounds, was theorized over 50 years ago, but they have now been created and studied in a laboratory for the first time. According to Science Daily, the discovery was made possible through the use of a third-generation synchrotron at the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, which produces an intense, tunable light that enables scientists to differentiate between molecules which contain the same atoms but arranged in different combinations. The Kriege biradicals, named after Rudolf Kriege, who postulated their existence in the 1950s, turn out to react with pollutants such as sulfur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide much more rapidly than expected to form sulfates and nitrates. These compounds, Science Daily explains, will lead to an aerosol formation and ultimately to cloud formation with the potential to cool the planet. So just these magical, yes, anyone who says we're spraying things up there to fight global warming or to create, you know, this man-made global engineered climate, oh, those are conspiracy theories. Don't believe people that say that, oh my God, how preposterous. Are you going to actually get me to believe that airplanes spray this up there? My friend, we have the scientific papers that say, well, they're just magical little molecules. Yeah, and we don't know how they got there, Buster. They're just magical little molecules that appear out of nowhere. And by the way, they happen to form aerosols and they happen to form clouds afterwards. They're not spraying aerosols up there with airplanes, you fucking dummy. God, how stupid are you? You think that we could just spray things with airplanes? My God. Magical molecules that appear out of nowhere. That's much more plausible than thinking that people are spraying stuff out of airplanes. Give me a break. That's what this article's saying, folks. Yeah, just magical molecules. Don't listen to people that say they're spraying this with airplanes. No. The most believable explanation for this has to be magical molecules that we have never known about before. Some guy theorized about 50 years ago. Oh, come on. 50 years ago, before the rise of the technology era we have now, people were theorizing about everything. Oh, monkeys might fly out of the sky today. You know. Give me a break. I cannot believe that this is what they're perpetrating as news these days. It just gets worse and worse and worse. And people, just eat this shit up with a spoon. Oh, well, I heard that wasn't true about them chemtrails. I heard that wasn't true. You've been spreading all this info about chemtrails all these years. That wasn't chemtrails. That was magical particles. They don't know where they come from. They're magic. They appear out of nowhere and eat up the global warming and keep us safe and make clouds. Jesus. God damn it. You're stupid.
Suck Satan's cock.
I agree. The scientists emphasize, however, that they are a long way off from being able to control the formation of Kriegi bioradicals themselves, which means that the best thing we can do is to just preserve the environment so that it can do its job. Yes, and please don't bitch and piss and moan about those airplanes you see fly over that are not spraying anything, by the way. See, those airplanes help out the magical particles. If those airplanes weren't there, the magical particles couldn't work and save us from global warming. You know, we'd have to go with your idea. What was that idea you had again, Bob? Geoengineer the climate by spraying aerosols and compounds into the atmosphere. No, you're fired. You're an idiot. It's magical compounds. That's all we're willing to say. That's all we're willing to go forward with. Magical molecules. That's it. End of story. Bible's real. Goodbye. Whew. That's just, I just get worked up whenever I see stuff like that, man. That's just, how many documents, folks, are there out there about aerosol spraying? Admitted aerosol spraying campaigns. The Department of Energy. narsto.org. There was years and years, college textbooks, advances in weather modification research. They've been spraying chaff for decades. And now they want to act like every person who's ever read an admitted piece of information about weather modification and geoengineering or just don't know what the hell they're talking about because it's fucking magical molecules. And that's the story. Magical molecules. Yeah, just like that guy in the white puffy cloud and the guy in the red PJs with the pitchfork sticking it up your ass too, huh? Yeah, both those are real. Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, they all get together and they fucking smoke magical particles. They get high as fuck and they drivel out news like this. Christ, that's what I'm starting to believe. There you go. There's a conspiracy theory for you. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. What about these everybody's some of these strange sounds going on? Strange sounds being heard worldwide. Several videos out there. Go to YouTube, type in strange sounds heard worldwide, frequencies and stuff like that. This looking like they're getting ready to roll out some Blue Beam stuff. And I saw something last night myself. I was coming back from getting some food last night. And I saw what you could call it a UFO, but it was not a UFO, folks. It was a straight up holographic projection. But it looked like a boomerang, like a batarang, like a Batman boomerang. That's what it looked like. It looked like a a horseshoe crab kind of thing, but it was completely made of like whitish, yellowish light. It kind of hovered, spun around, sat there for a minute, then disappeared. Then right directly to the right of it, there was two equally flashing lights that just appeared for like 2 seconds. And it looked like, you know how a cursor looks on a black screen, like a DOS prompt? That's how it looked. Like I was seeing a cursor on somebody's computer screen or something for a second. It was bizarre. And a lot of these, I saw this video earlier. I'll put a link to it in the chat room where strange noise and holographic image over Budapest, Blue Beam project. And what's in the center of that video is very similar to this boomerang-shaped thing that I saw last night. All these videos are coming out saying that strange noises are being heard around the world. I think with the combination of what's in that video I just posted in the chat room there, to me, those sounds like tones that I've produced on a synthesizer before. But it sounds like they're emanating from the sky, which means they're launching this satellite-based resonance stuff. There's patent documents for this, folks. You can go and read about this. They can bounce video images and audio images off of these barium-laced clouds from space, and you can see in that video right there that those clouds are very pink. And the reason when you see those pink clouds like that, when the sun reflecting off of them, is because they're full of barium. And that's one of the things they use to create this voice-to-skull technology. They can beam down audio images from space, bounce it off of the barium, and then use it to beam out voice-to-skull and beam images across the sky. I've talked recently about this Project Bluebeam stuff on the show, and somebody was asking about it, and I said, I'm very skeptical of it, but at the same time, we have seen evidence to support it that it may actually be a fact. So, I still am standing steadfast with that stance on it where, I'm not going to say it's not true, but I'm not going to say it absolutely is either. We have to go with what the evidence supports. But I will say this. I believe we have started to see more and more overwhelming evidence that it may very well be a scenario. But again, the biggest problem that happens in the research community and the truth movement and all this stuff is that people confuse Project Bluebeam with the stage alien invasion scenario, and you have to separate those two things. They're not one and the same. The Bluebeam scenario talks about, it's basically to bring about one world religion is pretty much its whole goal. The false flag alien invasion scenario is to bring about world government itself. Now, we can sit here and play tiddlywinks and jerk each other off and argue over, which one of those aspects is going to go first. But if you really look at it, it's not necessary for one to go before the other. People say, "Oh no, well they'd have to go with the false flag alien thing first and get the global government. Then once they got that, then they could do the Project Bluebeam thing, and then they could bring in one world religion." Well, yes, that may be true, but it's you don't have to have one to have the other. If you get one or the other first, doesn't matter which one, you're going to get the other sooner or later. And I think there has been overwhelming evidence that those things are definitely going to come sooner or later. Whether it's going to be Bluebeam or the alien invasion thing first, I don't know, but we've seen a lot of evidence supporting the fact that they may actually pull one of these off eventually, and I think it's going to be important that we don't allow ourselves. And I think a lot of people people globally now are a lot more conscious. I know it doesn't seem that way. I know it seems that people are getting stupider and dumber by the day, and it'd be hard to argue with that. But I think since 9/11, people are a lot more, a lot more on the guard and a lot more ready for whatever the next thing is that's going to happen. And that's why they're going to, that's why they delay doing any big operations yet, because it's going to have to be something that every single person is going to absolutely believe. And those scenarios for Bluebeam and those scenarios for phony alien invasion, well, those both fit the bill perfectly, unfortunately. So that's kind of what you have to boil down that down to. But I will say this: I do find it interesting that an administration here in the United States of the Obama administration. I find it interesting that an administration that has spent more on space-based weapons, and we do know that the whole space-based weapons ties into this, both with the blue beam scenario and the phony alien invasion scenario. But how an administration that has spent more on space-based weapons during its time in office, the previous administration, Bush administration, the last 2 years of his presidency, had spent that combined with the Obama administration, has spent more on space-based weapons than has ever been spent by the U.S. military in the whole history of these of the knowledge of these weapons, going back to Reagan and the 80s and the whole thing that I talk about in the Secret Volume 2. Dr. Edward Teller and that whole end. They've spent more now since then, but now, just as this blue beam stuff seems to be ramping up, this out of the Washington Times, new space arms control initiative draws concern. Critics say military activities will be compromised. The Obama administration is launching a new space arms control initiative that critics say will lead to restrictions on U.S. military activities in space. A key U.S. strategic warfighting advantage. Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton is expected to announce the initiative as early as Tuesday. The plan will be built on work contained in the European Union draft code of conduct for space that the Pentagon and the State Department have criticized as too restrictive. The United States has decided to enter into formal consultations and negotiations with the European Union and other spacefaring nations to develop an international code of conduct. So see what they're doing here? An international code of conduct. So a code of conduct for space-based weapons that all members of UN countries will abide by. You see that? Let me ask you this, ladies and gentlemen. Ask yourself this. Why would a government, why would an administration that has admittedly, these numbers are coming from the Department of Defense, fiscal year 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, more on space-based weapons, according to the DOD, the Department of Defense, according to their own records, more on space-based weapons, and then once all that money's been spent, and when it got to the point where it's pretty safe to assume, well, we've had that supremacy for 30 plus years. We've been ahead of the game on space-based weapons for years. But now the technology's gotten better. The technology's gotten cheaper. We have next level stuff now. And, now they've been spending all this money on this for the past 6 years as our economy's going in the toilet. Now, here comes Obama, now that we've got the supremacy and we've got everybody else on. Okay, well, now we need to have a space arms control initiative. We need to get all the countries of the UN in together on this and have one international code of conduct for space-based weapons across the board. Folks, this is exactly what Wernher von Braun warned us about in regards to them telling us that these hostile extraterrestrials wanted to end our way of life, but actually wanted to end their way of life, their supremacy, their tyranny, and that they would tell us that we had to weaponize space to fight this threat and unite all the countries of the world together. And that the end result of that would be, after this conflict was over, that anybody who tried to break free of the plantation of global government after that would be wiped off the map anywhere in the world within seconds from space-based weapons that, oh, well, we really don't need, we wiped out the aliens, but we need to maintain a constant space-based weapons, in case there's more aliens later on. Just the same way they do microcosmically now with Homeland Security stuff. Just like I was telling you last year, when I was reading about all the stuff that was coming into Dallas, all the surveillance drones and all this next generation technology from the Department of Homeland Security. Oh, we're bringing this in for security for the Super Bowl. And I said, horse shit. They're bringing this in and it's going to stay permanently. Of course, I was right. That was in the news. Well, in a larger way, folks, that's exactly what von Braun was talking about with space-based weapons. They sell us on a reason why we have to have these up there, and then once they're up there, they stay up there. And then they use them for other purposes than what they were designed for. Folks, they've been doing this over and over and over again. So now that Obama has spent more on space-based weapons than any other president in the history of the United States, that's when, after he spent that much over the past 4 years, he then decides that we need to have a code of conduct. Gee, you didn't want that code of conduct all the way across the board before you spent all that cash on these things for the past 4 years, did you? And I know he's a puppet. And I know he doesn't really make these decisions and everything else. But, you know, he is the puppet. He is the front man. He's the fall guy. He's the guy we blame. So he's the guy we use the most. The guy we reference the most. But the U.S. government has rejected space arm talks promoted by Russia and China at the United Nations as a covert attempt to limit U.S. military space operations. But the administration's official called the EU draft code an improvement. This is amazing. Yeah, I mean, this stuff's really coming to a head. Space-based weapons, blue beam. It's 2012, baby. Get ready. You better have your fucking helmet and your seatbelt on because it's about to get real interesting. I say bring it on. I'm ready to see this fucking dog and pony show. Let's see this horse shit. Bring it on. I want to see aliens and pole shifts and tsunamis and fucking earthquakes and fucking geysers and all kinds of crazy shit. Bring it on. Let's do it. Let's get down. Tired of hearing about it. Let's just see the horse shit so we can move on as a species. Thank you. Oh, what else do we have? U.S. legislation aimed at curbing online piracy, which has appeared to be on a fast track for approval by Congress, appears likely to be scaled back or jettisoned entirely. In the wake of critical comments over the weekend from the White House, people familiar with the matter said the legislation known as SOPA and the White House in the House of Representatives and PIPA in the Senate has been a priority for entertainment companies, publishers, pharmaceutical firms, and many industry groups who say is critical to curbing online piracy that costs them billions of dollars a year. Yeah. And what about the lives, the billions of lives a year you fuckers kill with your programming and your drugs and your medical industrial complex? Fuck you. Yeah, because your ass is getting kicked in the information war now, and because people are finding out what fucking phonies you are, you want to try and start this shit. Well, it's going to blow up in their faces, and it already has pretty much. This is the article that was sent to me from a listener. We referenced this earlier in the email that we read. Possible lost world found in Lake Huron. Put that one on the list. I got to go check this out. The recovery of a mysterious wooden pole at the bottom of Lake Huron is fueling excitement among U.S. and Canadian researchers. They have found more evidence of a lost world of North American caribou hunters from nearly 10,000 years ago. The scientists believe that these prehistoric Aboriginal people, who would have been among the earliest inhabitants of the continent, had a kill site along a ridge straddling the present-day U.S.-Canada border that eventually was submerged by rising waters when the glaciers melted at the end of the last ice age. Now drowned under about 35 meters of water in Lake Huron, the Alpena-Amberley Ridge is named for the Michigan and Ontario towns that respectively mark the western and eastern ends of the 160-kilometer long and 16-kilometer wide feature. The theory that the ridge was an ancient hunting ground was first announced in 2009 after the discovery of Lake Bottom Rock, features that appear to have been arranged by human hands to herd migrating caribou into narrow corridors ideal for spear hunting. These drive lanes are still used by some Inuit hunters in northern Canada to funnel caribou and making hunting them easier. Other groups of boulders mapped by Lake Huron researchers are thought to have been blinds meant to conceal hunters before they sprang out to attack passing caribou. The 2-meter-long piece of wood found amid such a rock assemblage during a summer search of Huron's floor for traces of human activity was later dated to 8,900 years ago. The researchers revealed last month the first thing you notice that it appears to have been shaped with a rounded base and a pointed tip. There's also a bevel on one side that looks unnatural, like it had to have been created. Meanwhile, other material gathered from the bottom of the lake is being analyzed by experts, including Canadian researcher Lisa Sonnenberg, a McMaster University paleontologist who specializes in studying micro-davitages, a stone flakes left at archaeological sites by ancient tool makers. That's interesting stuff there. Thanks to our listener for the heads up on that article. Let's see what else we have here tonight. We were just talking about last week, and we were reading out of the End of Days by Zachariah Sitchin. We'll be reading more of that for you here tonight as well. Amun-Ra and that whole end of the how it relates to the Anunnaki and all that. And Interesting stuff here. Swiss archaeologists have discovered the tomb of a female singer dating back almost 3,000 years in Egypt's Valley of the Kings. You can find this article up at theglobalreality.com right now. Antiquities Minister Mohammed Ibrahim said on Sunday the rare find was made accidentally by a team from Switzerland's Basel University, headed by Alina Pauline Grothy and Susan Bickel in Karnak near Luxor in Upper Egypt, the minister told the media in Cairo. The woman, Nahims Bastet, was a singer for the supreme deity Amun-Ra during the 22nd dynasty, according to an inscription on a wooden plaque found in the tomb. She was the daughter of the high priest of Amun, Ibrahim said, the daughter of the high priest of Amun. So that's pretty high level. That's demigod level. Man, I'd love to be able to get a DNA sample from that sucker. Have some independent analysis done. Wow. And that's probably why a lot of these are being quote unquote discovered and coming out right now, is because they're looking for certain genetic markers and certain characteristics. They're always looking to create the master race. And I think that's probably part of what a lot of this grave robbing and a lot of this quest for antiquity stuff is. They want to get, now that our technology's progressed to that point where we can replicate things, these guys want to start getting the old Aryan DNA back into the mix and, creating new life forms that are of the pure blood, and then drop neutron bombs on every major city and wipe all of us out, and then just, implant their new genetic creations, and they'll just move in like nothing ever happened. And ultimately, I think that's what these guys really want to do when it comes down to it. I mean, shit, they say that's what they want to do, right? So why should we think otherwise? For the Maya, the world isn't ending, the environment is. The end of the Maya long count calendar does not predict a global catastrophe, let alone the end of the world, say native activists and elders who spoke to IPS in Guatemala. But what are coming to an end are the world's natural resources as a result of human activity, they warn. According to the Mayan calendar, December 21st, 2012 will mark the end of a grand cycle of 144,000-day Bach tons, lasting 5,126 years. By the end of a cycle, but the end of a cycle does not mean the end of the world. And the collective hysteria triggered by the supposed 2012 Maya doomsday prediction does not at all reflect the thinking of today's Maya Indians in Guatemala. Well, those motherfuckers have been brainwashed to the barrel of a gun down there by, the CIA and the priest class and the right-wingers for years, man. You almost can't believe anything they say, because they had all their heritage and all their stuff stripped from them years ago. You know how many of the those people we wiped out during the fucking stuff we were doing down in there in the 70s and 80s? I mean, my God, folks, it was a bloodbath down in South America. We destroyed that culture of that country. It's unbelievable. But anyway, it says there are leaders who let themselves be carried away by what they hear, or because 13 has a very strong energy, and they are worried that a catastrophe will happen, but none of that is true, said Antonio Mendoza, an activist in a local NGO whose name in the Maya Quiche language refers to the 13 forces represented by the Mayan calendar. On the contrary, this new stage is extremely important for reflection and analysis about human coexistence in nature. According to historians, the grand cycle began on August 11th, 3114 BC, and ends on December 21st this year, which marks the winter solstice and the start of a new long count cycle. What does cause us a great deal of concern is how to bring people together and never to refocus our behavior with respect to nature, global warming, and the neoliberal policies that only extract oil and minerals and install large factories, posing a serious threat to humanity. Well, isn't that quaint? I'm sorry. You can call me an asshole, call me, inconsiderate, call me stupid, call me whatever you want to call me. I don't care. But look, I don't believe that December 21st, 2012 is about let's focus on neoliberal policies and global warming and try to fix that. and that's what it's about any more than I believe it's about the end of the world. Come on. Now they got Mayans telling us that, it's about global warming, and that's the stuff just conveniently going right along with that phony lefty environmentalist crap, that UN propagated horse shit. All of a sudden the Mayans just happen to be, no wonder they're spewing that shit. We've been down there up their ass at the barrel of a gun, blowing their people away, stripping their culture away from them for decades. And so conveniently now, after decades of us doing this to them, here they are conveniently in 2012 saying, oh, no, it's not about this or that. It's about fighting global warming, which, by the way, is real. And yes, what your leaders have said about global warming is real, and believe them. And yes, we Mayans support that as well. I mean, come on.
Suck Satan's cock.
Oh, man. Let's see if we have any other stuff here tonight. That's about it. There really wasn't a lot of news today. Of course not. Everything's focusing on all that stupid campaign stuff, which I just flat refuse to do. All right, well, we're going to take a break, come back, and we'll get into more stuff for you here tonight. Love to have emails from you tonight or any other time or later on when you're listening. Global Reality Show at gmail.com. That's Global Reality Show at gmail.com. And I love to have any and all comments, questions, stuff over there. And my website, theglobalreality.com. Please support our work. We've had a long way to go on our fundraiser this month, and we haven't got on a lot in this month that we're running. All right, back here with you on the show. Monday into Tuesday edition of the Global Reality for you, right here on the Global Reality Radio Network with me, your host, Josh Reeves. Thanks for being with us here, and we are going to be getting into more of The End of Days by Zechariah Sitchin for you here tonight in this segment of the show. And I just what a more appropriate time to read this stuff, right? Because again, hey, if this was supposed to be what's happening in 2012, then by God, let's talk about this and read this, and that way, if it doesn't happen, we we know right away what's bullshit and what isn't. TheGlobalReality.com is my website. Again, you can get your copies of my newest documentary film, The Secret Route Volume 2. They're for sale right now up at TheGlobalReality.com under the tab that says Buy SR2. Click on that, and you'll find all the buttons there to buy the DVDs, the Blu-rays, the DVD Blu-ray combo, research pack with a DVD and data DVD for computer, Blu-ray with data DVD, and then the deluxe collections with the data DVD and the soundtrack CD, and you can also get the Blu-ray in that package. Those prices do include shipping and handling worldwide, so bear that in mind. It's there's not any additional fees on top of what the listed prices are there, which is actually pretty good because the Blu-rays are so expensive. We don't make very much off those anyway, so. That's just the way it is. So please don't go there, and that supports our work and helps us survive and stay afloat. And so does your donations at the Chipping banner or the donate button there as well. We still don't have the PO box thing worked out. Which I haven't had a chance to go into the physical post office during a time when they're open to go and deal with it and pay for it. So right now, PayPal's the only way we can do it, and we do need some help getting the rest of our way on our fundraiser this month. We started out the 2012 in the hole, and if we stay that way, that's going to significantly hinder how much work we're going to get done this year. And I have a lot of stuff to do this year with films and the radio show and the rest of it. So we do need your support right now. Let's get into The End of Days. Gudea's tale begins with a vision dream that reads like an episode from the Twilight Zone TV series. For while the several gods featured in it were gone when he awoke, the various objects they showed him in the dream remained physically lying by his side. In that dream vision, the first of several, the god Ninurta appeared at sunrise, and the sun was aligned with the planet Jupiter. The god spoke and informed Gudea that he was chosen to build a new temple. Next, the goddess Nisba appeared, and she was wearing the image of a temple structure on her head. The goddess was holding a tablet on which the starry heavens were depicted, and with a stylus, she kept pointing to the favorable celestial constellation. A third god, Ninguzida, i.e. Thoth, held a tablet of lapis lazuli on which a structural plan was drawn. He also held a clay brick, a mold for brickmaking, and a builder's carrying basket. When Gudea awoke, the three gods were gone, but the architectural tablet was in his lap, and the brick and mold were at his feet. Gudea needed the help of an oracle goddess and two more vision dreams to understand the meaning of it all. In the third vision dream, he was shown a holographic-like animated demonstration of the temple's building, starting with the initial alignment with the indicated celestial point, the laying of foundations, the molding of bricks, the construction all the way up step by step. Both the start of construction and the final dedication ceremony were to be held on signals from the gods on specific days. Both fell on New Year's Day, which meant the day of spring equinox. The temple raised its head in the customary 7 stages, but unusually for that flat-top Sumerian ziggurats, its head had to be pointed, shaped like a horn. Gudea had to emplace upon the temple's top a capstone. Its shape is not described, but in all probability, and judging by the image on Nisba's head, it was in the shape of a pyramidion, in the manner of the capstones on the Egyptian pyramids. And the pyramidion is an interesting thing in Egyptology because it was only discovered not too far in the distant past, and they found both pi and the golden ratio within the pyramidion, and everybody thinks the pyramidion is just a capstone that wasn't placed there, but actually what it is it's actually a model, a replica model, a small scale version of a pyramid in the style of the Great Pyramid, and because the measurements of pi and golden ratio are accurate in the small version, you can also apply that to any size you want using the same mathematics, and using that small little model, the pyramidion, build as many pyramids as you wanted based on the mathematics in the pyramidion. So that's what it is. It's kind of like a master key. Moreover, rather than leave the brickwork exposed as was customary, Gudea was required to encase the structure with a casing of reddish stones, increasing its similarity to an Egyptian pyramid. The outside view of the temple was like that of a mountain set in place. Raising a structure with the appearance of an Egyptian pyramid had a purpose becomes clear from Ninurta's own words. The new temple, he told Gudea, will be seen from afar. Its awe-inspiring glance will reach the heavens. The adoration of my temple shall extend to all the lands. Its heavenly name will be proclaimed in countries from the end of the earth. In Magan and Malahua, it will cause people to say, Ningirshu, the Lord of the Girsu, the great hero from the lands of Enlil, is a God who has no equal. He is the Lord of all of the earth. Magan and Malahula were the Sumerian names for Egypt and Nubia, the two lands of the gods of Egypt. The purpose of the Yeninu was to establish even there in Marduk's lands Ninurta's unequaled lordship, a God who has no equal, the Lord of all the earth. Proclaiming Ninurta rather than Marduk's supremacy required special features in the Yeninu. The ziggurat's entrance had to face the sun precisely in the east rather than the customary northeast. In the temple's topmost level, Gudea had to erect a Shu Galam, where the shining is announced, the place of the aperture, the place of determining from which Ninurta and Nigirshu could see the repetition over the lands. It was a circular chamber with 12 positions, each marked with a zodiacal symbol, with an aperture for observing the skies, an ancient planetarium aligned to the zodiacal constellations. In the temple's forecourt, linked to an avenue that faced sunrise, Gudea had to erect 2 stone circles, one with 6 and the other with 7 stone pillars for observing the skies. Since only one avenue is mentioned, one assumes that the circles were one within the other. As one studies each phrase, terminology, and structural detail, it becomes evident that what was built in Lagash with the help of Ningazita Toth was a complex yet practical stone observatory, one part of which, devoted entirely to the zodiacs, reminds one of the similar one found in Dendera, Egypt. And the other gear to observing celestial, in Dendera and Egypt, the Temple of Hathor. Inside of it, that's actually where the oldest known zodiacal wheel is depicted. It's inside of the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, and it's thousands of years before we're said to have had astrology. That's my man. If I go any place on earth, that's where I'd want to go. I want to write a book and make a movie about the Temple of Hathor at Dendera. It's totally fascinating. There aren't any books written about it. There aren't any documentaries about it. There's a total blackout on it. They won't even talk about it on Ancient Aliens, even though they show it in the background of the intro. And the reason they won't talk about it is because if you really study it and look at the pictures, the whole thing is dedicated to genetic manipulation. I mean, they admit everything in the Temple of Hathor. They show these machines they had for making physical flame bodies that the spirits would manifest themselves in. The thing is built to the scale of giants. I mean, there's a picture if you go to Google Images and type in Temple of Hathor and scroll through the pictures, you'll eventually find a picture. It's a little Egyptian man, and he's seated on this pillar. And sitting next to the pillar, this little Egyptian man, I mean, he looks tiny. And then you realize, oh, wait, that's inside the Temple of Hathor at Dendera. And then you notice that there's stuff on the ceilings, painted, fully detailed stuff. This thing was built to the scale of giants. And it's largely, hugely uncovered in the realm of Egyptology, in the realm of documentaries and books and everything. I've searched and searched and searched, Amazon, everywhere. No books dedicated to even getting into any of the stuff in the Temple of Hathor. And again, you wouldn't have to have any of these ancient alien shows ever again if you just really got into what was in that place. And the other geared to observing celestial risings and setting, a virtual Stonehenge on the banks of the Euphrates River. Like Stonehenge in the British Isles, the one built in Lagash provided stone markers for solar observatories and solstices and equinoxes, but the prime outside feature was the creation of a slight line from a center stone continued between 2 stone pillars and then on down an avenue to another stone. Such a sight line, precisely oriented when planned, enabled determining at the moment of heliacal rising in which zodiacal constellation the sun was appearing. And that, determining the zodiacal age through precise observation, was the prime objective of the whole complex facility. In Stonehenge, the slight line ran and still runs from the stone column called the altar stone in the center through 2 stone columns identified as sarsen stones, numbers 1 and 30, then down the avenue to the so-called heel stone. It is generally agreed that the Stonehenge with the double bluestone circle and the heel stone of what is designated Stonehenge 2 dates to between 2200 and 2100 BCE. That was also the time, perhaps more accurately, in 2160 BCE when the Stonehenge on the Euphrates was built. And that was no chance coincidence. Like those 2 zodiacal observatories, other stone observatories proliferated at the same time in other places on Earth. At various sites in Europe and South America, on the Golan Heights of northeast of Israel, even in faraway China, where archaeologists discovered in the Shanxi province a stone circle with 13 pillars aligned to the zodiac, dating to 2100 BCE. They were all deliberate countermoves by Ninurta and Ningazita to Marduk's divine chess game, to show mankind that the zodiacal age was still the age of the bull. Various texts from that time, including an autobiographical text by Marduk and a longer text known as the Era Epos, shed light on Marduk's wanderings away from Egypt, making him the hidden one. They also reveal that his demands and actions assumed an urgency and ferocity because of a conviction that his time for supremacy had come. The heavens bespeak my glory as Lord, was his claim. Why? Because he announced the age of the bull, the age of Enlil, was over. The age of the ram, Marduk's zodiacal age, had arrived. It was just as Ninurta had told Gudea, the time when in the heavens destinies on earth were determined. The zodiacal ages, it will be recalled, were caused by the phenomenon of precession, the retardation in Earth's orbit around the sun. The retardation accumulates to 1 degree out of 360 in 72 years. An arbitrary division of the grand circle into 12 segments of 30 degrees each means that mathematically the zodiacal calendar shifts from one age to another every 2,160 years. Since the deluge occurred, according to Sumerian texts, in the age of the lion, our zodiacal clock can start circa 10860 BCE. An astounding timetable emerges if, in this mathematically determined 2,160-year zodiacal calendar, the starting point of 10800 BC rather than 10860 BC is chosen. 10800 to 8640 BCE, the age of the lion, Leo. 8640 to 6480 BCE, the age of the crab, Cancer. 6480 to 4320 BCE, the age of the twins, Gemini. 4320 to 2160, the age of the bull, Taurus. And 2160 to 0 BCE, the age of the ram, Aries. Setting aside the neat end result that synchronizes with the Christian era, one must wonder whether it was mere coincidence that the Ishtar-Ninurta era petered out in or about 2160 BCE, just when, according to the above zodiacal calendar, the age of the bull in Enlil's age was also ending. Probably not. Certainly Marduk did not think so. The available evidence suggests that he was sure that, according to celestial time, his time for supremacy, his age, had arrived. Modern studies of Mesopotamian astronomy indeed confirm that the zodiacal circle was divided into 12 houses of 30 degrees each, a mathematical rather than an observational division. The various texts we have mentioned indicate that as he moved about, Marduk made another foray into the Enlilite heartland, arriving back in Babylon with a retinue of followers. Rather than resort to armed conflict, sorry about that, I lost. Rather than resort to armed conflict, the Enlilites enlisted Marduk's brother Nergal, whose spouse was a granddaughter of Enlil, to come to Babylon from southern Africa and persuade his brother to leave. In his memoirs, known as the Era Epos, Nergal reported that Marduk's chief argument was, at the time, the age of the ram had arrived. But Nergal counter-argued that it is not really so. The Helaical rising, he told Marduk, still occurs in the constellation of the bull. Enraged, Marduk questioned the accuracy of the observations. What happened to the precise and reliable instruments from before the deluge that were installed in your lower world domain? He demanded to know from Nergal. Nergal explained that they were destroyed by the deluge. Come and see for yourself. Which constellation is seen at sunrise on the appointed day, he urged Marduk. Whether Marduk went to Lagash to make the observation, we do not know, but he did realize the cause of the discrepancy. While mathematically the ages changed every 2,160 years, in reality, observationally, they did not. The zodiacal constellations in which stars were grouped arbitrarily were not of equal size. Some occupied a larger arc of the heavens, some smaller, and as it happened, the constellation of the Ram was one of the smaller ones, squeezed between the larger Taurus and Pisces. Celestially, the constellation Taurus, occupying more than 30 degrees of the heavenly arc, lingers on for at least another 2 centuries beyond its mathematical length. In the 21st century BCE, celestial time and messianic time failed to coincide. We go away peacefully and come back when the heavens will declare your age, Nergal told Marduk. Yielding to his fate, Marduk did leave, but did not go too far away. And with him as emissary, spokesman, and herald, his son, whose mother was an earthling woman. And that's the end of chapter 3. And our next chapter is chapter 4 of Gods and Demigods. And so we will pick up on that one for you next time on the show. Yeah, very interesting. So I like how they were seem to sort of be getting into some of the galactic alignment stuff, because to me that's the real deal stuff, because that's the stuff that we know that people going back to Pythagoras knew about. All the mystery religions, all the secret societies have all known about galactic alignment, the precession of the equinoxes, and there seems to be a lot of focus on that. So that's very interesting stuff, and hopefully it'll get more into that later on in the book. A slow news day, not a lot of material again, folks. Everything garnering towards the elections and stuff, and I'm just not going to get up here and talk about Ron Paul's in second place and all this horse shit. You know where it's going. You know where I stand on it, and you don't need to hear me blabber about it anymore. We do need your support, folks. TheGlobalReality.com. Use our shipping banner. We're having a 2012 kickoff fundraiser. We got to meet that goal, and we got a long way to go and a short time to get there, and we are low on funds right now, so please support us if you can. My name is Josh Reeves, and I love each and every one of you, and we will see you next time for the broadcast. You guys have yourself a good day, good morning, good night, whatever it is you may have, and take care.